Scott here from SGA for the Command Tip of the Week. Today we're going to discuss the initial actions to be taken at an incident and why this information is important. Your initial actions are determined by what you see upon your arrival. These actions can be securing a water supply, pulling attack lines, or any of a multitude of tasks, but at a minimum should be the completion of a 360-degree assessment. We always consider water as our primary extinguishing agent. We can assign this responsibility to another company or obtain a water supply ourselves. In the rural setting, our supply may be limited and or challenging. This is due to the availability of water mains and hydrants. In some rural settings, these systems are sparse or non-existent. In the urban setting, we don't have that same problem. We typically have a water system that is readily accessible. But I believe that whenever possible, we should be bringing our own water supply with us. This belief is due to an event that occurred early in my career. It was 2 a.m. and we were dispatched on a dumpster fire in our first inn. On that night, we used our typical tactic to combat these incidents. That tactic was to pull up close to the dumpster, open the deck gun, and fill the dumpster with our tank water. My crew was in the process of filling the dumpster when the structure fire response was dispatched in our first inn. Like all good crews, my crew didn't want to miss this response. But we were out of water and not in service to respond according to policy. The neighboring engine company arrives on scene and gives the following size up. Engine 2 on scene of a large 2-story Victorian with heavy smoke and fire showing from the second floor. We have multiple victims jumping from the balcony, start a second alarm, and have engine 4 lay us a supply line. We then hear, "Engine 4, do you copy? We need a supply line." Engine 4? The dispatch center then informs Engine 2 that there has been a problem on the dispatch and the balance of the alarm has not been dispatched. Hearing this, my engine began to respond in that direction, informing the captain on Engine 2, "We are 2 minutes out, we're coming with no water, but we will bring you a supply line." We lost several victims that night, and I'm not sure that the lack of water had any effect on those loss of life, but I did change the way I deal with water supply issues. Unless I can see the other responding engine, I try to bring my own water supply. Another initial action may be pulling of attack lines. Sizes of these lines are decided by the company officer based on witness conditions as a factor in our prediction model to determine the predicted fire flow. You have options depending on your organizational standard equipment. Our options were a booster or hard line, an 1.5 line, an 1.75 line, or a 2.5. My rule of thumb was to use an 1.75 unless we were on a vehicle fire on the freeway with no water supply. Water supply, smoke and fire conditions will determine the line size. The final component of our initial action must be that 360-degree assessment. This assessment is required to be accomplished so we may completely identify the problem. And yes, I know I told you there would be no math. But our problem is not completely identified, we may not be able to solve it. Problem identification is imperative. You may have a victim on the second floor balcony on the A side of the building, but you must check the rest of the building because you may have 3 or 4 victims hanging off the C side. Stay tuned for more tips on size up and risk assessment in the upcoming weeks. Be sure to practice that perishable skill of size ups and making good decisions with valuable predictors. And as always, train like your life depends on it, because it does. And let's be safe out there.